Hi everyone, my name is Misbahu Zubair, and I'll be making a presentation on a paper that my colleague Nnamdi and I worked on titled How Long Do You Want to Maintain Discipline? Understanding the Challenges Faced by WebXR Creators. So I'm going to start by talking about what the WebXR Device API is. So the WebXR API makes it possible for creators to access input and output capabilities of AR and VR devices. This can then be used to create web-based XR applications. So XR applications that can run on a web browser, whether it's on a mobile device or a headset or even on your desktop, as long as these devices have a WebXR supported browser. So this has a number of advantages both for creators as well as users. I'm going to stick to the advantages that the WebXR Device API provides for creators because that's what the focus of this work is on. So for creators, the WebXR allows the creation of cross-platform XR applications. So you create a single XR application that can be run on a mobile device or a headset. It also allows creators to use existing WebGL development tools, so things like libraries like 3JS, which have been used for several years for creating 3D programs on the web, can be used to create WebXR applications. And it also allows for the creation of future-proof XR applications, meaning that it is expected that future XR devices will come with WebXR support out of the box. And so theoretically, WebXR applications that are created now will be able to be used on future WebXR application on future XR devices. And because these are applications that run on the browser, they can be shared easily using URLs. So creators can easily share their applications and they can be accessed and shared easily by users. And then finally, WebXR applications can be experienced in either VR or AR with minimal code changes. So this study was conducted with the aim of understanding the experiences of WebXR creators. Now, similar studies have been conducted, and some focused on the experiences of specific XR application creators. For example, studies exist on the that looked at the experience of AR creators. There are also studies that looked at the experiences of both AR and VR creators. However, none of these looked specifically at the experiences of WebXR creators or compared them with the experiences of native creators. So we conducted the study with a focus on WebXR as the XR development platform, and we considered the experiences of both AR and VR creators. We hope that our findings start a discussion on the situation of WebXR, it being a new development platform and all, and hopefully lead to discussions about how to resolve the challenges that we've uncovered. So the data collection for this study were conducted between May and June of 2021. We recruited participants through several social media platforms, specifically Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and LinkedIn. And we looked for, excuse me, and we looked for individuals that have created WebXR applications or are currently creating WebXR applications. We used the WebXR hashtag on Twitter and LinkedIn to identify posts and then contact the authors of those posts and invite them to participate in the study. On Facebook and Reddit, we posted adverts to the study in the WebXR, WebVR, and the Immersive Web communities. We successfully recruited 11 participants to participate in the study, and these participants are from all over the world, as you can see in the table that, excuse me, as you can see in the table that gives a brief profile of these participants. They use a variety of different tools to create AR and VR experiences, and the years that they have in terms of experience working with WebXR also varies. So in general, we have a diverse set of participants that took part in this study. So we used semi-structured interviews conducted with each one of these participants to collect data, and the interviews were transcribed and analyzed using thematic analysis to identify themes in the experiences reported by these participants. So three major themes were identified from our data analysis. So the first is the motivation for these creators to use WebXR rather than native, and then excuse me, and then we found the challenges that these creators faced when they were using while using WebXR, and then finally we also identified the different approaches used by these creators to tackle cross-platform support for their WebXR applications. So in this in this paper, we mainly focus on reporting the challenges that our participants reported associated with creating WebXR applications. So the first challenge I'm going to talk about is the challenge associated with learning to use the WebXR Device API. And this was a challenge faced by most of the participants of the study, including those that have spent several years working with WebXR. So the issue that was mostly reported was that there was a lack of learning resources for learning to use WebXR and the tools and frameworks for developing WebXR applications. And the resources that are available are not properly curated, which means in order for interested parties to find them, they have to conduct a thorough research on the internet. So this issue is associated with the second challenge we identified, which is the lack of awareness amongst developers and also users. So the WebXR developer community is a very small one, and that's because there is a lack of awareness surrounding WebXR Device API. Even though there are several millions of JavaScript developers, because there's little awareness around WebXR, these JavaScript developers, even though they have the tools and experience that can allow them to create WebXR application, do not know of its existence, and so are not part of the WebXR developer community. And in addition to lack of awareness around developers, users are also not aware of what WebXR is, and that's also a challenge. That also creates a challenge for creators trying to explain what WebXR is to users and how accessible it is, how it differs to native, and how it can be used in contexts that are relevant to those users. There were also challenges that are associated with WebXR applications and their nature and the nature of browser-based applications in general. So the first is the performance limitations of browsers. So browsers are not as good as native. So browser-based applications are not going to be as fast, as performant. They're not going to do as much heavy lifting as native applications are going to do. And this leads to extra tasks that creators have to perform to ensure that their application is optimized. So these can be things like getting draw calls down, getting the material count down, managing number of items in a scene, which are all good practices that should be done anyways. But for WebXR application creators, these are tasks that must be done in order to make sure that an application is not, for example, very choppy. Then there is the issue of having different levels of support for the WebXR API on different browsers. This there's a sort of fragmented support for the WebXR Device API across browsers on different WebXR supported devices. And this creates a challenge because it makes the WebXR platform a very slow moving one, where at any given time there is no consistency in the support for the API amongst all current browsers. And this means that it's difficult to create state-of-the-art XR experiences that work on every device's browser. This then makes WebXR creators to sort of play it safe and go for features that they know are going to work on every device's browser, even if that's not going to create the most or the best experience for their users. And then finally, there's the issue associated with keeping up with updates. So the web is an ever-evolving platform. So there are always going to be updates for browsers, development tools, development frameworks, and even the WebXR API itself can be updated. It is going to be updated, and this can break WebXR applications or expose them to security threats. This means that when you're working on a WebXR project, you can never truly finish working on that project. You're basically on a journey that depends on how long you want to keep maintaining the project. Lastly, we have a set of challenges that were reported by users when discussing the cross-platform support offered by WebXR. The first is the challenge caused by differences in hardware and software across WebXR supported devices. So although WebXR application can run on all WebXR supported devices, the experience of users may vary depending on the device the users are using. This makes it hard for creators to create consistent experiences for users regardless of their devices. Another challenge associated with cross-platform support is lack of iOS support for WebXR. At the moment, Apple's Safari web browser does not support WebXR, and according to the creators that participated in our study, this is a barrier to mainstream acceptance and complete cross-platform support. Lastly, there is the challenge associated with testing. So the first challenge associated with testing WebXR applications is that there are a large number of WebXR supported devices, and access to these devices can be difficult. And even when there is access to these devices, small teams or lone developers may not have the resources needed in order to test their application on all WebXR supported devices. There's also the difficulty, the tediousness, the discomfort associated with the iterative process of testing applications on a device such as a headset and then tweaking your code or making changes on a desktop. This continuous iterative process can be very slow, uncomfortable, and challenging. So with all that said, we believe that moving forward, there are several things that need to be done in order to move WebXR forward. First of all, there needs to be learning resources for WebXR and its development tools need to be developed and, more importantly, curated so that they can be easily accessed by interested creators. And then there needs to be a move towards developing and sharing guidelines for creating and maintaining consistent WebXR applications. There needs to be development of tools and guidelines for testing WebXR applications for all WebXR devices. And we also think we believe it is very important that WebXR is not considered as a competing platform to native, but rather as a complementing platform. We also believe there should be a drive towards promoting awareness amongst developer groups, including the more than 12 million JavaScript developers worldwide. There should also be a drive towards promoting awareness around WebXR amongst users and also a move towards identifying ideal use cases for WebXR applications. This can truly help in seeing WebXR as a complementing platform to native if we can figure out the ideal use cases where WebXR is a more fitting platform than native. And then finally, we believe that it is very important that moving forward, WebXR is advertised with full transparency